Welcome back to another episode of In Good Company with your hosts, Jeremiah and Judy McFadden.
Yeah.
Welcome back for another episode. What should we dive into?
Well, I gotta tell you, I just right off the get-go, leather is not the move for a pod. I'm so uncomfortable in this fucking thing. It makes crinkly sounds. I'm adjusting every 30 seconds.
Hey, but you look good.
I appreciate you.
You know, I'll use it as my 5-star, Jeremiah's outfit. Okay, pet peeve of mine.
It's a pet peeve of yours?
No, I won't call it
It's not a pet peeve.
but it's,
You don't give a fuck.
I don't. For a lot of people, it would be.
It probably is for a lot of people.
I don't care because I know you.
I don't either.
Jeremiah, I have a text and I almost want to pull it up so you guys can see it. Me and him are together recently and we're at church. We're at church home.
We're at church home.
And it's the end where there's the worship. And Jeremiah goes, "Oh, I'm going to be right back. Go to the bathroom 5 minutes." And like 20 minutes later, I just knew and I said, "Did you Irish?" And all I get is a gif of a leprechaun dancing with its legs up. And the Irish goodbye, you are the king. You love a good Irish goodbye.
I do. Yeah.
I'm not good at them.
Sometimes it's just your time to go, and I don't need to say goodbye to anybody.
But also, okay, as your friend that was with you, it's not like we were at a party where you had to go make your rounds. It was just you and me. And
you're leaving out an important part of that story.
Which is what?
There was a girl that you wanted to link up with at
Isabella.
church. I just wasn't going to wait around for that. So I was like, you know what?
That's fair.
I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm out of here.
Fair, because I was waiting to say hi to her.
But there's been multiple articles printed in the last, I don't know, year or two about how
much time you save in your life.
How much time you save in your life Irish goodbye. Because like goodbye, you got to shake everybody's hand. You got like, man, I'm out of here, man. I'm skating. I'm skating.
It's so good though. Yeah.
Once a week I get a text, where you at?
You Irish goodbye me so hard with Brock a couple years ago. We were at a party. It was a Halloween weekend. We were in West Hollywood. Me and Brock go into the house, and I text you 2 minutes later, didn't answer. Call you like, "Oh, dude, I'm already back up at the house."
I'm notorious. If we are going to a party, 9 times out of 10, I already know I'm not going to enjoy it.
So you just
and I'll be out in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're like, "I'll be here for a couple."
Because I don't want to ruin it for you guys. You know what I mean. So I'd rather just remove myself from the situation.
Make us Uber.
Yeah, I'm doing this for you.
That is a cop out. You are copping out. You are full of shit. It's not for us. It's for you.
It's for both of us. You want to know why? Because I also know if I approach both of you guys like, "Hey, I'm leaving," you'll be like, "No, like, okay, we'll leave too." That happens, right? Even if you don't want to leave, you might feel like as a friend you want to come. I'd rather just remove that barrier and just.
But
Irish your ass.
What is wrong with actually waiting 5 minutes for us? Because we did leave. You're like, "I'll wait 5 minutes." 5 minutes later, we're ready to bounce, and you're like, "I'm already at the house."
I didn't know that. I didn't know y'all were gonna leave in 5 minutes.
I said, "Give us a 5-minute window." There was a 0 window. The second that door closed, you were gone.
Your 5-minute window can easily lead to half an hour. So I wasn't gonna play chicken. I was the fucking hour. You know what I mean?
I just think of that GIF of you. I will pull the GIF up that Jeremiah used. It's so good.
I know there's potentially I know potentially there's a rudeness to it. That's not my intention. And maybe I am just thinking about myself in those moments.
It's just so good.
Maybe I am.
Irish. Did you Irish? Where is this thing? Look how funny this is. Look at this. Did you Irish? A leprechaun dancing. Dude, also the text above it, there are some grade A baddies here.
No way. Me or you? Where were we?
We're at church.
Oh, church home has baddies. You're right. Church home has
the leprechaun.
The amount of pretty girls in church home is crazy, by the way. Just in case you're wondering.
All right. We have an incredible guest today, so let's do our 5-star reviews. This week, what have you not been able to get enough of?
I actually posted on my Instagram story. It's a drink called the Warhol at Dayglow Coffee Shop.
You can't get enough of this.
It's
got
delicious.
The orange twist.
I've posted on my Instagram. I've had several people since DM me like, "Yo, this changed my life." It's kind of like a creamsicle with like espresso. So it's like an orange peel, it's cinnamon, it's cream, and it's so delicious. It's really good. It's like a treat yourself drink. It's not like something you're gonna drink on like a Monday morning getting ready for work, but like Saturday morning, like you're kind of feeling good. Yeah.
Treat yourself.
Yeah. What's your 5-star of the week?
My 5-star of the week is Gatsby's chocolate. Jeremiah tried one of these earlier. We both had a few packs.
It's a hell of a catch. By the way.
Yeah, it was great. The cookies and creams by Gatsby, phenomenal.
I like the sea salt extra dark. Yeah. I'm all about the anti-inflammatory properties.
What it does for my skin. Yeah, Gatsby's cookies and cream, absolutely delicious. And that's my 5-star this week.
Indulge before bed, you won't feel bad.
I also really like what they have on the inside. It's kind of like
it's nostalgic.
It's pretty cool. It's the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Gold, and it says, "Forget love, fall in chocolate," which I could use right about now. All right, what is our movie of the week?
Movie of the week is a movie I've seen 3 times in 24 hours. I'm not even kidding. It's called The Taste of Things.
Oh.
And it's a French period piece. and it's about a relationship based around food. And they're incredible cooks, and how important food is, and the discovery of food, and how like you sharing that with your friends. The whole movie's in French, and it's like chocolat, but like with like food. You know what I mean? And it's an incredible film.
Love it.
What's your song of the week? What are you choosing?
Song of the week came out April 19th by Nathaniel Rateliff. It's called Heartless. It is so good. Yeah,
It's an incredible song.
it's a great song. And it'll be on our playlist this week, which, by the way, the only way to get the playlist is on our menu in the Patreon. So click the link, subscribe, be on the in. If you know, you know. Which leads me into our guest today. We are so blessed and stoked to have him here. He's a recording artist. He's been making music for 20 years, 30 years now. He's a triple platinum artist.
He's incredible
He's
at what he
incredible.
does.
You might know some of his hit songs, Son of a Bitch, Dear Mama, his album Tear Me at the Seams, his newest album, Survivor, is incredible. Nathaniel Rateliff.
Glad to have you on.
Again, the only way to watch the full episode is to subscribe to the Patreon. You can listen on Spotify and Apple, but the only way to watch it is by subscribing on the Patreon, which will give you the newsletter as well, with all of our 5-star reviews, movie of the week, and song of the week. So subscribe to Patreon and watch the full video.
Do it.
Do it. Because you want to watch. The video is where it's at. Audio is cool, but not as cool as the vid. Well, hey, thank you so much for being here. We know you have so much going on, and we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we've been wanting to have you on for a while. I'll just jump in. Is that cool? So, I mean, this is even me earlier today. I was on the phone with Courtney, our producer, and I just had like one of those days where I was like, I just want to give up. Acting, the starting. It's so hard to chase your dream and to do things that you're passionate about. And there's so many times where I'm just like, I don't want to do it. I want to give up. I want to throw in the towel. And with you and your career, you made it later. How did you not give up? Like, what made you keep going?
Well, I think at some point, if you do the same thing for so long, you start to lack other life skills. Like music was what I was really good at, but I actually am pretty handy.
Yeah.
So maybe that doesn't apply. I don't know. I just believed in what I was doing. And even now, I meet a lot of younger artists that come up to me and are just like, man, these records really influenced me. And I just thought that was like stuff that people missed, that nobody cared about. And nobody cared about what I was doing prior to the Night Sweats. But it's not true. And I think those records did make it through. And even now, in the days of the streaming era, that stuff's all accessible, more so than it was when I put it out. And so it's kind of nice to feel like to have come full circle in those early releases, that people are excited about those songs. But I really was about ready to quit. I was tired of being a singer-songwriter. And that whole like genre had changed into being more like a pop version of what I was doing, and that wasn't what I was good at. And even just trying to connect with the audience, I feel like it took me a long time, because I feel like there were years where I was playing shows, and my guitar tech now was on tour with another band and saw me play in Berlin. And he's like, I watched you carry in your amp and your guitar. Your sound check was like, hey, doo-doo-doo. Yeah, that's good, whatever. And then you played this amazing set, and then you picked up your shit and you just left. Because I just didn't think anybody gave a shit about what I was doing. And I think, luckily, it was different than that.
I hear some of the stories of people like they're about to throw in the towel, and they just kept going for a little while longer, and that's when it happened, right? When you're just ready to be done, and then something clicks or something finds its way to you. It's timing and your conviction meet like a point.
Yeah.
And that's when it happens. And is there like a moment that you're like, I've made it? Or are you still climbing another mountain?
Yeah, there's these different points along the way. Right when I was about ready to quit music altogether, I just started doing these demos in my attic, and that became the Night Sweats stuff. And that was just kind of a fluke. But I felt something about it, and it was like a type of music that I had wanted to do for a long time. Initially, I wanted to like write a couple of songs that sounded like Sam and Dave and the band had made a band together, because I love the way Sam and Dave, the way their harmonies work. But also the band was full of singers that I really love. But just kind of that mixture of like, I feel like the band had so many different influences, and that was a huge influence to me. But so was all the stuff from Stax Records, and then eventually ended up, the stuff came out on Stax, which was crazy, you know, but yeah.
And who were you influenced by, like growing up?
Oh man, it's kind of all over the place, because there was a point in my life where my parents went to church, weren't allowed to listen to secular music. And that was late 80s, early 90s, and so there was a lot of Christian metal. I played music in church with my parents, and we had the church band that we did, and I played drums for a long time in that with my mom, and then eventually moved to guitar. But, you know, my mom's of the era of, like, the Jesus movement in the 70s, and she plays 12 strings, so it's more like singer-songwriter.
Since you started playing, how many bands have you been a part of?
Well, my bass player and I, Joseph, We had changed the one band that we were in multiple times. Like one time it was 76 Drown. That really dates us because like back then everybody had to like have a number. So that's early 2000s. That band also became the Road Stars. Then it was Drown. And then eventually we became Born in the Flood and kept that name even though it started off as like, I would never say a jam band back then, but it was straight up a jam band. We had 2 drummers. There's no way you're not a jam band. And like there was one
Just
song that was 45 minutes long and it's instrumental. So I was like, no, we're not jamming. It's all mapped out. It's like all written that way.
Fish is a jam band, right?
Yeah.
That's just, we're going to jam out and
Yeah.
do whatever we want.
Just noodles. So we kind of started that way, but then I think the stuff that I was listening to really changed. Like I got into the Cramps and the Strokes had come out, and I got more into the Stones catalog, and all of that just kind of influenced the way I was writing. And then I think it was that era too of the early 2000s of like the White Stripes, and then you also had.
Well, he was saying the Strokes, and that was one of my 5 stars.
Yeah,
I
I mean, that
love
first
the
record
Strokes.
was like, and I think at the same time, we were also getting our minds blown by Radiohead ever since they put out OK Computer. But I think that was like every band of that era.
Yeah.
If you list your influences, Radiohead would have been up there. But somehow
So
we
good.
made that kind of a mixture of all of that. And that band did really well. And we did a pilot show with Matt Pinfield, who was on MTV for a long time. He was a big deal, 120 minutes. And just a guy who loves music and helped out a lot of bands. But he was trying to do his own show, and I guess it never took off. And then we did showcases for multiple labels. And at some point, I had a record deal with Roadrunner. And I think the other bands on Roadrunner were Slipknot and,
I love me some Slipknot.
no, it's the band that everybody used to not like. I don't want to say anything bad about it.
Is it
Anyhow.
Nickelback? Nickelback.
Nickelback.
The second you said
And
people don't
Slip.
like him, people say like, "Oh my God, he's the Nickelback of the NBA."
No way.
Clay
I feel
Thompson,
for the guy.
Nickelback of the NBA. Nickelback is not a good term. If
Yeah.
someone calls you the Nickelback of something,
To me, I didn't want to associate what I was doing. I didn't see myself on a label with the bands that were doing that kind of music time. And also, I had been in that band for about 7 years, and I had started playing shows by myself as The Wheel, which eventually turned into just being my name when I got signed to Rounder Records. But I had turned down Roadrunner mostly because the other band, like our biggest song, I just hated, and I was like, I don't want to sing this every night. And they wanted to like release the record that we already put out. And I guess at the time I grew out of it. And I remember our guitar player at the time was just pretty livid with me for saying I didn't want to do it. And my manager too. He's like, what is it going to take for you to sign us? I was like, it's not really about money. I just don't see myself doing that. And that was really a gut feeling. And then right after that, I started pursuing more of my solo stuff. And then I got signed to Rounder Records. Put out one record with them that Brian Deck produced. And he had done Modest Mouse and Iron and Wine.
I love Iron and Wine.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. Like I went to South by Southwest, and we had this great team. I played the Brooklyn Vegan Showcase, and that was a big deal back then. And the previous year, Justin Vernon had done that as Bon Iver and blew up. So there was all this anticipation of like, we're doing all the same things, and people are responding well, and you're going to take off just like Bon Iver, and it just didn't happen. I even toured with a lot of those bands, and some of that had to do with I just had like a really horrible manager at the time. Because I probably did that for another 7 years, the solo thing, and Nathaniel Rateliff and The Wheel. And a lot of times I couldn't afford to bring out a band, so it was just me. It was cut back to story of me in Berlin. And just not like, I didn't understand how to perform in front of an audience. And that's something that even recently, like up until last year, a friend of mine was just like, we're in the service industry. And whenever you're having a hard time, because you can have like a total existential crisis in front of thousands of people, and standing in front of people doesn't make you any less insecure. I mean, if all I had to do was slap motherfuckers, that'd be fine. Like we had a slap game we played for a while. I was good at it. But I feel like there was an era where like I didn't want to perform any of the songs that I knew people liked. So I was just kind of fucking over my audience with like the saddest, slowest songs I could play for an hour.
What album for that?
That would have
In
been
Memory of Loss?
In Memory of Loss and Falling Faster Than You Can Run.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. And even the EP that came out after Falling Faster, but I can't remember what the Closer.
What album is Still Trying on?
That's on Falling Faster.
Yeah,
You Can
Falling
Run.
Faster. You Can Run. That's such a great album.
Thanks,
It's so
man.
funny. You know, I love that album so much.
There's like a line that every artist has to battle between like what they like making versus what maybe the label's pushing on you or what your audience is pushing on you. How does this sit with you in terms of like your artistry, you not compromising your vision of what you want? Is there like a middle ground you play?
Yeah, there is a little bit. And I've been really fortunate because after I got dropped from Rounder, Concord had bought Rounder, which then made them not interested in me. But then Concord came back a few years later and signed me. And that was my A&R guy, Matt Marshall. And I've been lucky that he's just been really supportive. He's never really tried to direct anything I was doing artistically. He just let me do it. And it's been really cool. And they've been really great. And I don't think I'd be where I am without them and my manager, Chris. And I think that was the thing that really helped change, is to have somebody steering the ship that knew what was happening. But it is still an ongoing conversation about what they feel I should release versus my favorite cuts. Even like we're about to announce a new record, and even just like the songs that'll come up out on iTunes before the release, there's strategy behind all of that from their end. And I was going over the songs and I was like, well, that's not what I would have picked, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think, and even my manager at one point, he's like, well, let's just take into consideration that historically the songs that you don't like do very well. And I was like, okay, true, I hear you. So, and I think that is the case a lot of times. That's the case with this record. I was like, okay, well, we'll put that song on this portion of the release to come out early on iTunes before the full release. But I was like, the third song, can it be this song? And then everybody's like, yeah, we could do that. That makes sense. We talked about that one as being one of the ones. And, you know, now it's just like a whole different world of content and all this kind of shit that you have to come up with that I just fucking hate. You know what I mean?
Like the social media aspect of little videos and stuff like
The
that.
social media aspect of it, and just also like everybody wants to know what you're writing about. And I feel like when I was coming up as a songwriter, my influences, whether it be Bob Dylan or Leonard Cohen or Townes Van Zandt or even the Beatles and the Stones, you'd have to dig to find them talking about any of that. Nobody ever asked that question, like, what's this song about? You know, like,
Yeah.
I was like, well, listen to it. And I think in some ways, like, the beauty of art, and that being like all types of art forms, speaks to an individual in a particular way that only speaks to them. Like, not everybody's going to see the same thing in that piece of art there or that piece of art. Or when they're reading literature, like, you relate to that art through your own personal experience. And I think by explaining what the song or that an album is about and what everything's about, you're kind of robbing the listener of the opportunity for them to really have their own interpretation of it.
Their own connection to it.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. Like both of us listening, because we both listened to your Still Alright album on repeat.
Yeah.
Because we both went through breakups.
Right.
And your interpretation of a song was different than my interpretation of it, but we both resonated with it.
And I think I'm writing from my own perspective. And I think I can explain all of that, but sometimes it jumps around from line to line. Like, you might be writing something and there's like a dig on somebody else in there, and just like, oh, this person really pissed me off, and so I'm gonna write this. But I was like, yeah, that's right. Take that. That's like the most passive aggressive thing you can do, is like write some shit about somebody in a song. So
I feel like your vulnerability in your music is such a huge, I think, connection point for so many people. I think your ability to honestly communicate, I think, pain.
Well, a lot of men don't do that, which I think is rare, especially in music. A lot of men don't show that side of emotion. And I think that he's saying,
It's one thing to have the courage to put pen to paper, record it, put it out for millions of people to hear, but it's another thing for it to connect people who are all going through different things in their life, you know, and be able to resonate with them.
but that's all I ever wanted to do. Even when I was really young, music really affected me. It made me feel really emotional. And I didn't know if anybody else felt that way, but it felt so important to me, that experience of feeling that way, that when I started writing songs, I was like, well, I want people to have that experience that I have. And in that, I was hoping that however that helped me, I was hoping that I'd be able to do the same for other people. Allowing myself to be vulnerable in front of people or in a recording hopefully allows other people to do that on their own terms. And I think even like the record that I've just been working on, I ended up writing this thing to kind of explain the record hilariously.
very meta.
Yeah, I was just saying that. But I did it on my own terms, so I was excited about it. And we ended up, everybody from the label wanted to use that as liner notes, which isn't something a lot of people do.
What's a liner note?
It's usually someone else will kind of write a few paragraphs explaining what this record is. And so it's that.
Got it.
So I just kind of talked about the experience of making the record and how we did it and why we did it that way and what I was going through leading up to that. Like I had been experiencing, I've always had a problem with anxiety, but there's like almost 6 months where I was like just playing around with sobriety for fun. And yeah, you know, because it's a blast, right? It's so fun. So it was really like 151 days, so close to 6 months. But in that time, since I wasn't self-medicating, I was like forced to deal with a lot of things, or a lot of things came up and at different times. Like 4 weeks in, you feel one way when you haven't drank, and then 2 months in, you feel a different way. And so all these things just kept happening. But in that time, I just kept experiencing so much anxiety, and different than what I had felt in the past. Like it really was like playing with all my neuroses, like little tiny things. Anything offset. For example, I was working with my producer and a friend came by, and the first thing I noticed was like, he doesn't wear socks.
You gotta leave.
No, just no big deal. My attention to detail was usually just based on weird negative things.
No socks in the shoes?
No socks in the shoes.
You would say something.
That's foul.
But maybe he's got little tiny socks on. But I don't like those either. I don't think he's wear those.
Unlikely.
I even tried them recently. I was like, I'll give these a shot. And I was like, these are bullshit.
So this new album you have coming out, is this a Night Sweats or a...
Yeah, it's a Night Sweats record. Some of the songs in there could have gone either direction. It could have been on a solo record. And I think the writing is starting to get closer and closer to what I used to do, because I think that's just what I'm comfortable with. And the last record we did, The Future, I think at the time I was like, what kind of band are we? And the record did fine. There's songs on it that I love. And then like the production on it was intentional and just kind of clean. And I don't know, I felt like I was trying to do something different with the way it sounded and like kind of modernize the band. And with this record, I just really wanted it to feel like all the songs were songs. Like that's a silly way to say it, but like I want them to be songs that people would sing along to, or that I would want to hear. I didn't want it to be about production tricks or cool riffs. I just wanted to be word-based, and I wanted the message to be like, these are songs. And I think there's some good sing-along type songs in there. And it's interesting working with a producer where you're like Brad Cook, who helped us finish the last record. He kind of came in midway through because a good buddy, Eli Thompson, was helping us with that. But I felt like I was getting in the way of Eli. And then Pat, who plays drums with me, we do a lot of production together. And then we also had James Barone, and the three of us do production, like we do songs together. And then we also had Jamie Mefford, who was our front of house guy. So there's basically like 5 different producers in the room, and nobody's really steering the ship. But like the first thing when we were making that record, Brad asked me, he's like, what do you want out of this? And I was like, well, I want everybody in my band to feel like they've had a huge role, like they're excited about parts. And I think Brad came in and he was really good at allowing people to have a voice. And I think I'm not very good at that in the studio when I'm working, particularly with my band, because I'm just like, we should do this, or I want to do this. That doesn't sound good. Just let me do this. Like, I'll do it, and I kind of take over, and that's pretty stifling, I think, for other people. So even on this record, we just recorded everything in El Paso, Texas at Sonic Ranch, which is like kind of a compound with multiple studios on it on the 5,000-acre pecan ranch.
How long did that take you, like when you guys went there?
We were
Was it
there
a
for
couple
all
weeks?
of May.
Really?
Yeah. So I played Willie Nelson's birthday at the Hollywood Bowl both nights, and then went directly into the studio and the guys who got there before me and set up. And I came in and like started to play one of the songs, which will be our first single. And Brad was like, we set everything up. You guys are all playing in this one room. And it was like the biggest studio on the property. And so it was cool. We're just set up in a circle. Everybody can see everybody. And I went in there and he's like, I just need you to like make some noise so we can get a level. And I started to play this song and basically did like a perfect keeper performance.
First try.
Yeah. I came in pretty hot. And I came out, I was like, what do you think? Brad and I had to go have a chat. He's, I just need you to just be like, hey, like, you're just coming in with a lot of...
You went straight Will Ferrell and Anchorman. I'm so unprepared.
Exactly. And so I had to like ease off a little bit and just kind of let Brad do what he needed to do, which I thought was a great experience for me and the band, because the band is always like, oh, we don't want to upset Nathaniel, or they're trying to like do what's best. And like Luke, my guitar player, would be like, well, I was thinking this, what do you want to hear on this? I was like, I just want you to play whatever you want to play. And if you have a question about it, I was like, I think you should ask Brad. Like, don't ask me.
How do you decide what's for you as a solo artist and what's for the band?
Well, I think that's becoming harder. But before we met in May, in January, Brad had some time off and I had time off, and he was like, hey, do you want to come out to North Carolina and just fuck around? And so I had a bunch of ideas, and that was kind of the goal, was for me to go out there and actually organize all these voice memo recordings and all these like ideas that I have. And in that time, I was really struggling with this like neurotic anxiety, and it was like very apparent in the studio, and it was really hard for me. And I think by the end, I had like a breakthrough with Brad. And part of that was just him being like, man, I love you, and I'm just here to support you. So Yeah. So sorry.
No, you're good, man.
But I felt like that was a bit of a failed trip. I was there for 10 days and I think we had 8 songs. So I'm pretty hard on myself because I thought I'll definitely get a song a day. There was a song in that I just didn't bring for the band. It was like it's like a whole new thing that I haven't really done. And so like I kind of have a vision for it. I need to make a record that will have a flow of this one song.
So given like how touring and the highs of performing in front of tens of thousands of people and then getting on the tour bus and how hard that life is, what do you do to just recharge?
Nothing. Just come home and try to do absolutely nothing. But I also come home sometimes and go straight to the grocery store and make soup.
Well, that's his
or like
thing
come
to
home
do,
and
too.
like immediately mow the lawn. And it's 3 acres of grass or more.
Yeah.
On a 5-acre piece of property. That's like when I was going to quit music, I was going to just go back to being a gardener. I think that's always been my like, don't kill yourself, just go someplace crazy and become a weird gardener.
So that's what you would be doing if you weren't in music. That's like the passion, the green thumb.
No, I'd probably be making money now, but yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
The tractor mower, not the one you sit on, not a pusher. You have a sit on one.
I have a 0-turn one, yes.
Yeah, that's what we did. I would rock that.
Yeah. You obviously went to high school and weren't on the groundskeeping crew for high school.
Well, it's
like
funny.
me, yeah. I had like a real sort of Goodwill Hunting story about my school, but I was not solving math problems at the end of the day. Like when I was cleaning elementary school, the music room would like have all these xylophones and vibraphones and pianos, and I'd be like scrubbing the floor and be like, and be like, ding, dong, 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 ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, 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 like just total jam session for like an hour, and then like go back to my dust mop and
Yeah, and all you're waiting for is Quincy Jones in the other room. Be like, who did that?
say, oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
I love that. So when you're not performing, I think this is funny that you guys will connect on this because you love cooking. What's your life outside of playing music and when you're back home? Like you said, grocery shopping.
I'd love to like the grocery store is like such a perfect human experience. And then like being in another country and like just going to a market where I remember staying in the south of France. It's not as cool as it sounds. I was in Perpignan, and but a friend owned a house there, and it was like a cute little cottage and hot as fuck. But like if you wanted bread, you'd have to get up, walk to the market, and make sure that you got a baguette before they sold out. And then if you wanted lunch, well, you're probably just going to do that at home because the whole middle of the day just shuts down. Like there's nothing open. I grew up with some friends. My dad's really close friends were from Romania, and they had like escaped while it was still a part of the Soviet Union. And the mom from the family, like we're in rural Missouri, and there was like this huge Walmart, and she walked in and just cried when she saw all the food. Because you just don't have that experience. And then she would make these amazing cakes. And then she found out, she's like, look, the cakes, it's in a box. And I was like, no. Just keep making the cake you have been making. They're fantastic.
That happened the other day. I took Jeremiah to Costco, and he was like, where are we? He had never been in a Costco.
You're like, I guess I need a 5-gallon bucket of pickles. I'll go through those. But that's such an American experience versus like Europe is still different.
Is being on the road, is being in a band, is being a music star, all these things, is it like almost famous? Are you like yelling on the rooftop at like 2 a.m. I'm a golden god? Like has it gotten to that point in your life?
Just like us doing pure dickweedery, like it certainly isn't like groupies and nudity, like there's none of that, except for us being naked in front of each other. I've seen more butts. I've seen more nuts and butts than I ever need in my life. And I have a pool at the house, and there's a big window. I was like, when I first got it, I was like, you never know what'll happen to this pool. All I've ever seen is nuts and butts in that pool.
What do you mean? It's like when you're in the pool, you can see from the outside.
Naked pool parties, but it's only ever fucking dudes, you know? And but I think that's true for us. Like, nobody's running around trying to hook up. So it's just us being stupid, like throwing knives in walls. More, it's like me and Joseph getting on heavy equipment and operating it intoxicated. Or there has, not from me, but there definitely has been furniture thrown off of balconies. Yeah,
Wait, so
go
speaking
ahead.
of almost famous, some of my favorite artists, Johnny Cash, I have a shirt that has Johnny Cash's mugshot. Do you have a good arrest story, or have you been arrested?
I have been arrested twice, once with Joseph. And then recently, last year, driving from Asheville, North Carolina to Raleigh. And I wasn't drinking at the time, like totally chill. This is one of those tours where I was like trying to figure out, I was like, I'm not going to stay there. I found this other place that my friend helped me find. Stayed at this nice hotel. And I was supposed to get on the bus that night after Asheville. But I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm just going to rent a car and drive to Raleigh and listened to some stories, some podcasts, and that was all fine. I remember I like called Taylor and I was like, hey, hope you have a good night. I'm going to bed. Like I was in bed early and woke up at like, I don't know, I think I was on the road by 7 a.m. I just woke up. I was like, well, I'll start driving. And I get probably 45 minutes outside of Asheville and I get popped by a state trooper doing 84 on the interstate.
In a 60?
65.
Okay.
But Colorado speed limit's 75.
And you have a lead foot. You like to drive, right?
No.
A little bit.
I said no.
I'm an average driver. I would say I'm an assertive driver.
Flow of traffic.
Yeah. And so I get pulled over and he's like, you were doing 84. I was like, oh, sorry. You know, like I was like, whatever. I was like, write me a ticket. You know, I was like,
think it was
you know, I was
85.
just like, come on. I was like, my podcast is going to, I need to listen to History of Rock or whatever I was listening to. I think it was exactly what I was listening to. A History of Rock and Roll in 500 songs. Anyhow, don't want to blow you guys' podcast by recommending another one.
I was
Anyway,
listening to good company.
yeah. I was listening to, yeah. And so he's like, well, did you know it's still legal to drive over 80 in the state of North Carolina? And I was like, what? Like, he probably didn't like my attitude. I wasn't trying to give him attitude. I just was like,
It's illegal to drive over
80, which I just thought was
the
absurd.
dumbest thing
Let's
I've
just
ever
say.
heard.
As an assertive driver, I thought that was unreasonable. And so he's like, I'll reduce the ticket down to 80 and you'll just have to pay the fine. If you don't pay it by such and such date, you'll have to appear in court. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll pay it. It's fine. And so, because I was just kind of being like, whatever, this is stupid, which I'm sure he didn't appreciate. And so I'm in just like the gravel median and then it's just interstate. So I floor it, which is maybe not the best thing to do in front of
Floor it out?
Floor it out. Yeah, because you got to accelerate to get into the interstate. There's fucking traffic.
It's just bad as hell.
Yeah, I floor
Thanks for
it.
the ticket.
And then immediately I look down, and I mean, like, no time has passed. I just get pulled over.
Same guy.
I blow by his friend, who I actually blew by earlier when he had somebody pulled over, and I was like, he's not getting out to stop me, and I just like assertively drove by him. And then, well, he gets me, pulls me over, and he was like, my partner just pulled you over. He's like, I just got you doing 84. He was just on the phone with me. He just pulled you over doing 84. So I get pulled over by one state trooper, and then immediately got pulled over by another state trooper doing 84.
And were you like, oh, fuck, I'm going to jail?
No, I kind of laughed, not at him. I thought it was funny. He did not think it was funny. And it's in Burke County, so he was like, you don't respect my state? You know?
Boy.
And I was just like, yeah, it was a lot of boy
Right,
type
yeah,
shit.
like-
And I was like, and I grew up with that. And then as soon as that came out, I was like, no, officer. I was like,
I
have
respect
friends
your
here.
authority.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, no disrespect. I was like, I'm not trying to be an ass. I was like, this is a rental car. I live in Colorado. Speed limit 75. I just tried to merge into traffic. I was not trying to speed. And then he was like, get out of the car. And I was like, what? You know, I was like, no. You know, I was like I'm going to explain to him. I was like, see, what you got wrong there is like, get out of the car, put your hands behind your back. But then when I got out of the car, he started being really nice. Like, because it's like, was really hard for me to put once you put your hands together behind your back, I was like, man, I'm not fucking doing yoga every day. Look at my shoulders. I can't do that shit. And so he actually moved the handcuffs to the front of me.
That's nice.
They start to book me. And then they were just kind of being dicks. And
Sounds about right.
it's $500 to post bond. Before I got in the car, I had all these per diems like on me. And I was like, this is too much cash to carry.
Are you in the United States? Or are you in Russia? Are you Brittany Griner? Like,
No.
what's
That's what
going
it felt
on?
like, yeah.
Like, what?
So I like left a bunch of cash. So I had $380 in cash. Clearly I have enough money to post bond, but you can't use a credit card. And then he's also like, sure, got a lot of cash. I was like, it's a per diem. I get them.
So you almost had too much cash for their...
They're like, huh.
I guess it's too much cash. So he's like, well, we're going to have to book you. So from that room, I go into another room. And that's where, like, and this other cop starts laying on he's like, take off your boots. And, like, proceeds to, like, strip me naked. And then put me in prison stripes. Now if I ever get pulled over in this county, I'm so fucked. They put me into another room. There I have to, like, take off my underwear, spread my cheeks, do all the thing. And I was like,
For 84?
for 84.
That is nuts.
And then, like, straight up, just looking like I was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And then I have to go out and, like, show all my tattoos and do photos. So, coming up with the merch right there.
I think that's your next
Dude,
tat,
that is
84.
that is a great merch though. You'd also be great in a remake of that with your voice.
Which one?
You would crush Oh Brother We're Out There remake.
Oh, are they? Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done that yet.
Seriously.
Get you on there. That's the soundtrack and acting.
84 bus is like his next shirt. Like,
Yeah,
just like
84 bus, yeah. So then, yeah, like then I have to make my call, which is funny because the first person I call is my tour manager, and then I give him 2 bail bondsmen. And his side of the story was he's sitting there, and then our production manager's looking at him, and Will, my tour manager, is like, county jail. He's like, this ought to be interesting. I was like, hello. And I was like, on the other end, I was like, Will, this is Nathaniel. I'm in the county jail, and I'm not fucking kidding. Like, and he was like, all right. He's like, and I'm supposed to be like driving to this show that we're playing that night. And so
I'm not fucking kidding.
yeah, I'm not fucking kidding. And so he's like, okay, well, I'll call these bondsmen. Because that was the other thing. We have to like go through a bondsman. The whole thing's a racket. You know?
It is.
And it's only $500, but that's the thing. Like, most people don't have $500. I'm fortunate enough that I do. And so it's like other people who are actually going to be doing time in the system for something as simple as speeding. And so anyhow, he gets me out, but he had to call 2 bail bondsmen. And he was like, one was like hog whistle and something else. And I can't remember. One of those guys got me out, gave me a ride back to my car, made it to the show, and had a fantastic story to intro my song.
That's a hell of a story.
And you said that when you started the song?
Yeah, and I was like, before Hey Mama, I was like told the whole story, and I was like, so, just make sure, call your mom. You know, because you never know when you're going to get arrested. And crowd went nuts.
That's too good.
It was great. And the funny thing is like the paper did interview the arresting officer, and I was like, wow. Like I would have liked to have been interviewed as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't think it
seriously.
would have gone over very well. I'll just go around I-40, I think. And the
Yeah,
funny thing
skip
is
that
like
town.
my producer who lives there, Brad, he was just like, he's like, bro, I drive. He's like, thought of you the other day. Was doing 85, driving right next to a cop. Nothing happened. I was like, mother.
Were you on I-4?
Is it 40 or 4? I can't
Well,
remember.
I wonder if I-4 runs from North
going-
Carolina to
I
Florida.
can't remember.
Going to jail for
Or is it
84 is
60?
crazy. That is ridiculous. How's the mugshot?
Oh, so
Always
yeah,
good merch.
yeah. We can use it for promo for this. Yeah.
We do our collab
We
post
can't.
with you. Is your mugshot in good
I'm
company?
pretty sure my management would be like, what?
It is Photoshop me and you in
Yeah.
there with them with
We're
stripes
shooting
on.
this pod today
Yeah.
in the what's the name of the town?
When I did get into the cell, there's this young kid in there, and he was just like, opens his eyes. It's still pretty early in the morning, and he's like, and then eventually looks over, you know, like, you been in before? I was like, yeah. He's like, but he doesn't know me, so I just like have tats and I'm wearing prison stripes and my hair's all fucked up. I was like, yeah, I've been in before. Yeah. So doesn't know I'm just like a nice guy
probably just
most of the time.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like, this
dude,
guy
dude.
just killed somebody.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
In here, live here.
Probably scared for his life in there. His eyes are all bloodshot. It's like early. He's got tatted up.
There's also like an incident where one of the band members might have flooded several levels of a hotel. He still says it's just a drip. But he said he woke up in the morning and he like rolled out of bed, feet hit down, and he's like, oh my God. And starts to look around and his room's flooded. Well, underneath him was Mark's room. And Mark was like, there's fucking water coming out of the ceiling. It was like bubbling up. And then one of the crew guys was like, oh yeah, I was on such and such floor. I had water coming down the wall of my room. So it was like not great, but this hotel, you know, it seemed like it was going to be, I mean, immediately to my tour manager, I was like, yo, I'm not paying for that shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
seriously, you're not lying.
That
Yeah.
kind of buffoonery is at the cost of the person who did it. He's like, I agree. He's like, I'll let you know what happens. And then like a couple weeks later, I was like, what's happening with that? You know, like, what are we? He was like, well,
Yeah.
we're definitely never
That's when you
staying
hope
at
it's
that
a-
hotel again.
Yeah, that's when you hope it's a Notting Hill.
There's definitely
Mr.
a hotel.
Flintstone.
And
Mr. Flintstone, we're gonna have to pay your tab.
after Thanksgiving, we had this like tablecloth. It was like, I don't know why you would have a hand wash only tablecloth, but that's what this was. So I throw it in the kitchen sink, have the drain plugged, put on my coat, go to the store. And I get to the store and I'm like, oh my God, I left the water running. So underneath the kitchen is also my studio and the mechanical room. Well, I come home and it is just water all the way around the kitchen island and coming towards the front door. And I run downstairs and there's just like these like light cans, water just coming out of them. And the mechanical room was just like raining all over our internet. And if we don't have internet, you like basically, there's nothing. I couldn't call anybody. And then luckily my buddy who helps me out with stuff that I don't have time to do on our property was showing up with a Christmas tree and like a ball and burlap tree that we used and we're going to plant here pretty soon. And he shows up and I'm just like, water. He's like, fuck. And he's like helping me, but it fucked up the floors. We figured out if you take the can of, you don't really see it that much, but Pledge, the dusting spray.
Oh, yeah.
That like has a polish. Well, we had wood floors and we polished the whole house's floors. Like we polished all the floors in the house with this stuff and we're like ice skating with our socks on. It was so slick. And my mom came home and just like totally. She was like, there you go, Heather. So yeah, things you do. Yeah.
What's this fireworks story?
Okay, so I was kind of going through a lot and we happened to be on tour with Kings Leon. We were on the upswing. We were partying a lot. I was drinking a lot. And since I had so much stuff going on in my personal life, this tour wasn't ideal. And we hadn't done any of these big arena tours. And so I also didn't know how to perform in front of the audience. And so I just felt like I shouldn't be there. And I really was just like hoping to God I just wanted to go home and figure my life out. So during one of their songs, or on a day off, we were in Sandusky, Ohio. And there's a big amusement park there. And all the guys went. But I stayed and hung out with Taylor, his sister. And we just like had drinks. I was drinking a lot at the time, so she was probably like, what am I doing here with this guy? And so in the middle of that, there was a fireworks store, and I was like, we should go buy fireworks because I got an out-of-state license. And then Joseph was there as well. And we just bought like, I remember there was a little kid in the store, and he looked at our shopping cart, and he was like, the shit we were buying. And so later that night in the hotel parking lot, we just started going nuts with fireworks. So much that I thought the cops were going to come. They never did. Well, the next day after the show, this is like we're playing in Ohio, which is also where Pat, my drummer's from. So tons of his family's there. He's stoked because this is like a huge show and it's like the first time he can see us. In the middle of the Kings Leon set, during the song, you know that I could use somebody, someone like you. As that song started, I was like, Taylor. The other thing is like the venue's down here and the buses are parked up on this hill kind of behind a venue. And so like you couldn't really see everything up there, but you could see fireworks. And we had got these mortars that kind of you like drop into a pipe and they go, they're like professional grade fireworks.
They're great.
The ones we got. And Taylor's like the whole time she's like, you sure we can do this? I'm like, sure, who cares? It's fine. And I was like, know that I could somebody. Someone like, whoa, I was like, give me another one. Someone like, and I just keep setting them off. And then like next chorus comes, do it again. And while this is happening, like Joseph is talking to somebody and Pat's in another conversation. And they're like, yeah, you know, I could, uh-oh. And then like, that was Pat's experience. And then Joseph was talking to somebody. He's like, oh shit, have you guys seen Nathaniel? And then everybody starts making their way. And like, as I'm lighting these off, I can see like a hand. I think it's hard to remember now because I wasn't thinking clearly. At least two people from their camp, their crew, is walking up this hill at quite a pace, you know, and I'm still just like, like laughing, having a good time shooting these off. And behind them is my tour manager who is like doing his best to just keep any kind of composure because he was just like, he wasn't having a good time on the tour either. And they came up and they were just like, the Kings Leon really appreciate the fireworks, but they asked for you to stop. And I was like,
the production
I
value
was like, they didn't ask shit. They're on stage, you know? Like, they can't even see this. I was like, it's perfectly timed. Well, needless to say, I got shut down by their team because, one, we didn't have a permit.
Production
Pyro.
value.
They're getting free professional grade pyro from me. The crowd went nuts. That was the other thing. It's like, The other thing is like, now in hindsight, I'm sure you need a permit to do pyrotechnics.
Yeah, you're like, Caleb, I got you.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I was like, those rhinoceros skin boots are going to be fine. So, yeah.
Those rhinoceros skin boots.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. At what point, if you've had it, or at what point were you like, I've finally made it? After playing for so long, was there a moment where you're like, I can finally kick back and like chill a little bit?
Like the end of last year.
Really?
I mean, I felt for a long time like the bottom is always going to fall out from underneath and just not know. There was no particular moment. I think it just really took me a long time to realize where I'm at in my career, and that we haven't really plateaued yet. And that's the funny thing about this industry is like I could not have a career pretty easily, very quickly. And I've had other friends who are really successful that they just put out a record that didn't do well and like really just slows your momentum down. And then some people navigate through that and continue to have great live shows. And I think that's the thing that sustains us mostly is like how many shows we play.
I mean, or this new album could be the biggest one you've ever made.
That'd be great.
You know?
But I try to look at it now as not so much like I really love the songs and I believe in this record and I think it'll do well, but I know that it's going to sustain me into creating more. You know what I mean?
Me and
Like
him have
it's
talked
another
about that.
step.
It's for you. Yeah. Like if you know
Yeah.
that you gave everything to it and you like it, that's the work.
And then I've also just trying to like do other things in the same industry that I like, and I like working with other musicians. And songs are really like I'm really curious about the way people write songs, and I'm curious about people's stories. And I want to help people tell their own story. I think it's important. And so I want to be in the room with people when they get hung up and be that other voice. It's like, well, what about this? And I'm not trying to get the writing credit. Like I worked on a project with the band recently and I thought it was going to be more collaborative, but the singer and the writer just like got the song pretty much done. And so when I came in, I only helped change a couple of things, but I was happy to be a part of it. And it wasn't really about me trying to write the song either. Like it's cool to be a part of the experience. And in the end, we kind of cracked the code together in a room of like how the song needs to be performed. And that's fun for me. That's exciting. I'm in town right now to celebrate Mavis Staples' 85th birthday and sing some songs for her and with her. And I've written and recorded a song with her that we have her singing on and still haven't put it out. Like, it's just because the timing didn't feel right. And so now I'm going to have to, now I probably will this year because it's her birthday. But that was like just another thing. It was like such a cool opportunity. And I like being in the room.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch somebody else's magic.
What's your favorite city you've played in the world? Because you've played all over.
Yeah. Favorite city. It's more like areas. Like the Netherlands are amazing. And we've always done really well up there. And in Brussels, I've spent a lot of time in Brussels. And so I know the city really well. So I always look forward to going there. And Utrecht is by there, and that's pretty cool. I love culture, and I like when I'm in another country or even in another city. I feel like most European cities are easier to walk around than American cities. Like when you're in New York, it's easy to walk around. New York, you could take a train to another part of town and walk around, but here it's different, you know? And so I spent tons of time in London and fallen in love with parts of London, and spent tons of time in Berlin and like parts of that city. But then I like weird places, like I like Munich. I love Bavarian food because that's what my great-grandmother used to feed me. Tokyo was cool, but it was also like during this crazy heat wave. I remember I took a train to go see this old Buddhist monastery. I'm like, I can't remember if it was built in 700 or 500, like fucking
That old?
Yeah, and still there and still active. But I just remember it was like I was wearing a shirt and like the whole back of my shirt was soaking wet and the whole front, you know, it was like
Yeah.
not wearing shorts. I think I was wearing boots and like jeans, and I think I was carrying a jean jacket, and I was like, what did I do? I'm dying.
Yeah, I want to go to Japan during like the cherry blossom.
Yeah, there's lots of like New Orleans is fantastic, and some of my cities have changed. Like I used to love San Francisco, but San Francisco's gone through a lot of changes in the last 10 years, and I feel the same way about Portland, Oregon. It was like one of my favorite cities, but it's gone through a lot of changes, and I still love those cities. Sometimes it's more of like a matter of feeling safe, and like San Francisco and Portland don't feel.
I went there
wildly
recently
safe
and
right
he
now.
wouldn't go with me. He was like, San Fran, I'm good.
I've just been there like almost a year ago. It was like 10 months ago. And I was like, what is going on?
I mean, even like right before the pandemic, we played a show in Oakland, and just like the amount of tent camps and that kind of stuff. It's hard to see that many people struggling in the midst of like so much wealth. And you know there's empty buildings. I don't know. That's always tough for me.
As my closing question, music is something that lives on forever and ever and ever. Even when people aren't with us, we can still listen to their stuff. What is like the legacy or what you want to be known for with your music when that's all said and done?
I just hope people don't think I'm an asshole, honestly. So. I don't know. I hope that people just remember my voice, or like I hope maybe I'll be recognized for my vulnerability.
Good thing to be known for.
Yeah, listen, man. When I was going through a hard time in life, you know, relationship and life changes, all these things, like your music, 100% helped me get through bad days. And so I'm really appreciative of having you on, man.
And it made some of my best days too. So yeah, it's good and bad. It's not all, you know. But thank you so much for making the time to come meet with us.
Thank you guys for
and-
having me. It's a pleasure.